August 9th, 2022. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Here.
Councilmember Perkins,
Here.
Councilmember Zafar,
Here.
Vice Mayor Veros,
Here.
Mayor Hudson.
Here. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, 3.1. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
There are none this evening.
That's a good start. 3.2. If you wish to speak tonight under public comment, that's any of the items, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk over there. If you are participating remotely, click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment has been taken on the agenda item. 3.3, boards, committees, and commission meetings. A complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city's website at www.sanramon.ca.gov. Subscription service is available at the link for automatic meeting notification. Contact the city clerk with questions at 925-973-2539. Item 4 is public comment. Public comment is open at this time. Members of the audience are encouraged to address the city council on items that are on the consent calendar, including a request to pull an item from the consent calendar and the reason why you wish to pull the item or items. Please note that the decision to remove the item from the consent calendar is strictly at the discretion of the city council. You may also request for future agenda items. And you may pull an item from special presentation. We have 2 items tonight, and that is items under section 6 of the agenda. And of course, you can always pull items that are not on the agenda and are within the city council's jurisdiction. Do we have any cards to speak of public comment?
I don't have any speaker cards for this item. I don't have any hands raised on Zoom, but I did receive one written comment.
And that was from
Susie Ferris Intercom.
yeah, very nice letter. I hope you all got it. Thanking which I've heard all rave reviews about our concert throughout the summer. We may have to expand that. Yeah, smiles in the back. Okay, we'll close the public unless one last call. Does anybody wish to speak to any item? Section 6, any item that is not on the agenda, going once, going twice, public comment is closed. Item 5 is consent calendar items. Consent calendar items are considered routine or acted upon by the city council with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide input may request by email. Or did anybody request tonight? Do we have anyone who wishes to pull an item from consent?
I would, Mayor. Can I
Yes.
get 5.5, just a staff report on that?
Okay, we'll do that as a deferred agenda item. So we have anybody wishing to do anyone 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6?
I just want to comment on 5.4.
Okay, then
No staff report required. Just, I want to make a comment.
that's okay, but we'll pull it. We'll do it the right way. You know what I
Okay.
mean? They're now under 7. Anybody want to move 1, 2, 3, and 6?
I'll move 1, 2, 3, and well, we've got Mr. Armstrong and I second it.
I'll move 1, 2, 3, and 6.
I'll
Okay.
second 1, 2, 3, and 6.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Or Sridhar, your machine is slower than dirt. Hey, 5 of 5. Okay. So 5, 1, 2, 3, and 6 have been passed. Let's get to the highlight of the evening. That special April, where are you hiding? Come on down. Okay. I love this. It seems like how many years we've been doing this. We always get April up here. We have a proclamation for declaring August 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day. And I have a proclamation for their founder of the director of the National Coalition Against Prescription Drug Abuse, April Rivera, and I'll be right on down. Okay, picture people, just go wild. Turn on, we'll put our backs down here. All right, I have a proclamation.
Microphone,
There they are.
microphone. There you go.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Can you hear me? Oh, it's terrible on my part. I have a proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon declaring August 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day. And whereas the City of San Ramon does affirm and acknowledge the harm and hardship caused by drug overdose. And whereas we recognize that the purpose of the International Overdose Awareness Day is to remember loved ones lost to overdose and to end the stigma surrounding substance use disorder. SUD, that was pretty good putting that in there. And drug-related deaths. And whereas we resolve to play our part in reducing the toll of overdose in our community, which continues to claim the lives of San Ramon community members every year and forever affects those who loved and cared about them. And whereas we affirm that the people affected by overdose are our sons and daughters, our mothers and fathers, our brothers and sisters, and deserving of our love, compassion, and support and remembrance. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon, along with the National Coalition Against Prescription Drug Abuse, the Contra Costa County Meds Coalition, BART, and other community, that's a B-A-A-R-T though, BART, right? And other community partners do hereby recognize August 31st, 2022 as International Overdose Awareness Day throughout the City of San Ramon, dated August 9th, 2022, and signed by Dave Hudson. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I should have told you I got a sore hand. No, anyway, and introduce who's with you, please.
Sure. Monica Cameron.
Monica, you're gonna have to do a 20-minute speech, and Shree, you're gonna give a 30-minute speech. Let me give this to you, and April, I want to turn this over to you because I
Thank you so
half-heartedly, we'd love to have you come back, but you have one of the more serious that I'll get it all. And I almost hate to say it, I wish you didn't have to come back, but you know what I mean.
I do.
Okay.
So Mayor, thank you so much. And also Vice Mayor, I'm assuming you're here, as well as council members. First, I want to thank you so much for your resolution proclamation recognizing August 31st as International Overdose Awareness Day. This is a global day, so it's not just happening here, it's around the world. Unfortunately, this problem is that big. It's meant to remember those who've been lost too soon to overdose, to support those they left behind, and to break down the stigma that keeps people from asking for substance use treatment support. To put this public health crisis in perspective, there have been over 700,000 overdose deaths in the US since year 2000, so we're approaching 1 million people. You need to multiply that times all of the impacted family members and friends to imagine the overall impact overdose is having in our country. Unfortunately, I know from personal experience that these avoidable deaths, especially of our children, is devastating and has lifelong impact on those left behind. My son Joey graduated from Cal High in 2006, went on to Arizona State University, and he died as a senior, just about ready to graduate from an accidental overdose on 12/18/09. That was just a few months before he would have graduated. So in our case, no warning at all. So you probably don't know, excuse me, that the leading cause of death among those that are 18 to 45 years old now is in the US, fentanyl overdose. Hopefully most of you have heard about that, if not all. And this is due to counterfeit pills that are making their way into our communities everywhere. These pills look like real prescription drugs, such as Xanax, Adderall, and painkillers like Percocet, but they're laced with fentanyl, and just 2 milligrams of fentanyl can take a life. So our kids are easily accessing these through social media channels, platforms such as TikTok, Snapchat, that's where they hang out. Easy to get, cheap to get, and they have no idea what they're getting. It's also from powder, the powder form of fentanyl that is showing up in virtually every street drug out there. So if anybody is accessing heroin, meth, cocaine, any of these substances, it can have fentanyl in it. So we're losing people in that way too. So please don't think that this is just something that happens somewhere else. Over the past 12 years, since I've been involved in this space, well over 30 families, and I'm sure there's quite a bit more than that. I'm being really conservative in that number, like mine, have lost loved ones to overdose, and a lot of them were kids. So many were young adults who graduated from school here, and they didn't survive their college experience. So just since 122, so of this year, of the 69 non-fatal, thankfully, EMS reported overdose cases in our county, 15 of them were in San Ramon here. And one of them was a fatal overdose right here in San Ramon. And that's just the EMS data. We know the numbers are really bigger than that. So thankfully, life-saving naloxone was used in the majority of these cases to reverse the overdose, or many of them would have been in the fatal category. Critical action steps we need to take in our city include continued and more in-depth prescription drug and fentanyl safety education, not just for our kids, but this includes parents, even our educators and every adult out there. Naloxone overdose rescue training, that's what we do all the time, every time we present to youth or adults, and there needs to be more of that. We need to have naloxone rescue kits available in schools, homes, and businesses and beyond. So our organization, the NCAPDA, provides both free, all of our services are free, training, education, and naloxone rescue kits. So please contact me at info@ncapda.org to discuss how you can help us save lives. We hope all of our council members, if you haven't already been trained, will contact me. I'd love to do it in batch or individually and to provide you with those kits. Thank you very much. And if we can have one of our youth ambassadors, we have, I think, around 15, 18 of them right now. Yeah, he's an amazing, one of our amazing young people. So we would love to have Shreya.
Hello, council members. My name is Shrey Sharma, and I am one of the youth ambassadors of the NCAPDA. I would like to thank you for accepting this proclamation. I'm currently a freshman at California High School and have worked with April and Monica in addressing problems with prescription drugs for the past year. As a youth, I helped in providing the viewpoint of my peers concerning major problems, for example, the recent issue arising with fentanyl-laced drugs. This resulted in over 70% of overdoses last year. Now, I would like to address a common misconception shared throughout parents in our community. It concerns your children and my peers. Parents often believe that their child is educated on the dangers of prescription drugs, that their child would never misuse prescription drugs. However, they fail to understand the lurking danger hidden in the prescription drugs lying in their home. Children's, especially teens, are very uninformed on the current situation. When combined with peer pressure, this results in children making decisions they will regret. I'd like to stress that in the time that I have spent informing my peers and amongst most youth, there's a lack of seriousness when discussing topics such as prescription drugs. Currently, the large majority of youth view prescription drugs as a joke and often post very unsafe challenges, involving them on social media platforms such as TikTok, as April mentioned. Take, for example, the Benadryl challenge, in which teens were encouraged to intentionally overdose on the drug Benadryl, culminating in the deaths of many teens nationwide. In my own friend group, individuals fall victim to a similar viewpoint, often joking about prescription drugs, viewing them with low perceptions of harm. This is where the most damage occurs. Without an educated youth, the future will continue to be plagued with overdose due to lack of information. We, together, need to bring light to this issue and rally the community, including the youth, to raise awareness about the harm that prescription drugs wreak throughout our communities. By educating our youth, we can prevent the deaths that are occurring all around us and that will occur in the future. Together, we can save lives. Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this honor. It's really rewarding that all the work that we have done, the city recognizes it. And there is actually an overdose awareness day, because it's like, as Shrey and April mentioned, we have found that there is a lack of education and there's a lot of misconception and a lot of stigma in our communities as well. The numbers that we see are definitely not what are the actual numbers. So as a personal experience, working with the youth, I have experienced that they do not have the education and very easily fall for all the challenges on the media. And it is important, as we work with middle schoolers and high schoolers, that when they go to colleges, it's even more important to take that education with them. And my personal experience has been my son, who was a youth ambassador, and now he's trying to raise the awareness in his college, which is San Jose State. And but before that, before I joined NCAPD, I myself as a parent had no clue about it, and how children and our kids can fall prey for it. And it's just a very fine line between the overdose and not. So thank you so much. It's really rewarding, and it brings all of us extreme pleasure to be that our efforts are validated. So thank you once again.
No, thank you. And council, if you would stay. Sabina, would you start us off? Anybody wants comments?
Yeah, I mean, as always, April, you know how grateful I am to you for taking your pain and using that to educate our entire community. And like you said, when our kids go off to college, that's probably, we tell them about alcohol, we tell them about drugs. But if April hadn't educated me, I wouldn't have had that prescription drug conversation with them. And that gets even more dangerous because they really don't sometimes, you know, Trey, like you mentioned, these are challenges and it's like, oh, what are you talking about? And so really appreciate April. Every year you come and bring us more awareness. And I'm, as a parent, very appreciative of everything you've done in our communities and disposing of, teaching us, cleaning out our medicine cabinets, making sure we don't have extra medicines in the cabinet, which anybody could abuse, children or young, older people as well. So just grateful to you always for bringing this awareness to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Any
No,
comments?
thank you very much for coming and reminding us that this is still an issue that sometimes we forget in the days of COVID and monkeypox and other things. That there are still people that are dying of prescription drug abuse and overdoses. And thank you very much for coming. One of the tough parts, I'm sure, of your job is you never know the life you saved. You know you're having an impact, but you can't go up and shake their hand and say, I'm so grateful I saved you. That I know that's got to be tough and weighs on you. And then when you know about a life lost, you feel that you've lost something in addition to the family. So, but thank you very much for bringing this to our attention every year.
Thank you. Mark, any comments?
Sure. April and all of you, thank you for coming in and helping us with this awareness, helping our community with awareness about this problem with overdose, prescription drug overdose, and fentanyl in particular. And I didn't catch your name, but well, thank you for speaking up on behalf of the teens. I remember a teen council meeting last year, and you were April, you were presenting to them, and one of the members didn't realize or didn't really know what fentanyl was. And just in that forum, it made me aware that there's a lot of youth in our community that just aren't aware of the problem or the danger of some of these drugs. So thank you for bringing this awareness to us. And yes, I have taken an Narcan training. I did it as part of the leadership San Ramon Valley, and I still got my kit with me. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Vice Mayor Rose.
Thank you, April. Thank you, Monica and Shrey, for being here. And as every year, you keep reminding us and making sure we are on top of this important issue within the community. As a parent myself of 2 teen kids, I really appreciate all the effort that you put to keep our community safe from opioid issues that not only our community, throughout the nation, it is a big pandemic, as the numbers itself speak, right? As Monica mentioned, it's the numbers that they gave, maybe not even the close to the real numbers. It could be much bigger than that. So I really appreciate all the work that you're doing. And also one more thing is, because my wife is a pharmacist, I get to know about these issues, about this drug abuse and all that. She keeps us updated. One thing she always tells me that don't take even a Tylenol or any painkiller unless it is a must. It's unfortunately that message is not being reciprocated everywhere. But then you are stepping up and helping our community to do this effort. We really appreciate for keeping adults and our youth away from this opioid drug abuse. Thank you very much.
And April, I don't think there's any more I can add, except please come up to the mic and one more time. How much fentanyl does it take to kill? If they take one thing away from this, how many milligrams of fentanyl does it take?
2.
2
Couple
milligrams.
little specks, that's it.
Mhm.
And you can't tell by looking at a fake pill if it's fake or not. You can't tell if any other drug has been tainted with fentanyl. It's not detectable unless you have fentanyl test strips. And by the way, we're about to purchase them. So we'll be handing those out to our community members too, for those drug users that have not chosen yet to get clean, but they are using potentially drugs that could be tainted with fentanyl, and they can hopefully detect them and choose not to use them. So
Well, Sheree, you got your work cut out for you because
Yes.
every teenager is invincible. Go ahead, Scott.
Just one thing. Many people don't quite understand how big a gram is. A gram is about a paper clip. So we're talking about 2.
2 milligrams. So if you
2
can feature the end of a
100ths.
pencil, the lead at the end of a pencil, that's about what we're looking
Yeah,
at.
we're talking about
It's really tiny.
200ths of a paper clip.
If anything touches it, you're in danger.
Yeah,
That's
if
it.
you inhale it, you can overdose.
Yeah.
There's debate as to whether you can actually overdose by touching it. That would be a fairly rare occurrence, but definitely inhaling. So you got to be careful.
Well, April, thank
Thank
you once
you.
again. I want to say we look forward to seeing you next year, but honestly, you understand we don't. But that's unfortunate that this is our society. You're going to be back again.
Well,
And
we
there's gonna
normally
be other
recognize
stories.
March as Prescription Drug Abuse Awareness Month. That has been my once a year visit.
Mhm.
This is now in the middle of the year where we're
Mhm.
recognizing for the first time,
Yeah.
Now International Overdose Awareness Day. So
Mhm.
you'll probably be seeing me twice a year, if not more. So
Okay, well, let's just hope
Thank
there's
you.
not a reason to come back a third. And I don't mean that silly. I mean,
I know what you mean. Thank you.
unfortunately, this hit home, and thank you for staying with it, because that's usually what it takes. Somebody learns firsthand, and they're
Mhm.
now dedicated to what you're dedicated to. And
Well, and your
thank you.
comment about me retiring at some point, it's going to be inevitably the case. I just turned a milestone birthday last week.
No.
So
50,
we got to
40.
institutionalize.
Please don't
Thank
make me
you.
feel old.
We have to institutionalize the work we've been doing. It has to continue beyond me because the problem is not going to go away.
Yes.
We got fentanyl flooding across our borders and finding its way into every single community. So
Yeah.
thank you again. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. all of
Once
you.
again, thank you all for the work that you do.
Mhm.
Thank you. Our next proclamation, item 6.2, is recognizing the San Ramon Valley Islamic Center and the San Ramon American Muslim community for the contributions of American Muslims to the San Ramon community. Is Sobia here? If I pronounce that right, Sobia? And you brought with you your vice president. Is it Thiessen? Okay, and Nadia, that was a tough one to figure out. Please join me up here. We have a proclamation for you. It's gonna be a long speech. Get your way.
Close in.
Oh, Stephen. Okay. Don't go ahead. This is.
Get a little closer. Yeah, okay, one, two.
Oh, word.
Yeah, okay, now you can start.
Proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon. recognizing the San Ramon Valley Islamic Center, SRVIC, and the San Ramon American Muslim community for their contribution to the San Ramon community. Whereas San Ramon is home to the San Ramon Valley Islamic Center, which is dedicated to serving the spiritual needs of San Ramon Muslim community and promoting interfaith cooperation by providing an environment for dialogue, education, and fellowship. And whereas the SRVIC has provided many volunteer services to the San Ramon community, including but not limited to the following. Partnering with the International Rescue Committee to support newly arriving refugees to the Bay Area and help with apartment setup for families. That has got to be a job itself. Packing and distributing 100,000 pounds of food staples and masks to at-risk communities in the Bay Area through their You Are Not Alone program in partnership with Support Life Foundation and other Bay Area. Sponsoring the SRVIC blood drive, the American Red Cross. Being one of the largest donors to the Contra Costa Food Bank, donating $25,000 to $30,000 every year. In addition to the estimated $150,000 in donations to community members in need. Maintain a section of Highway 680 southbound as part of the Adopt a Highway program. Whereas Muslims have been part of the U.S. history from the beginning and have contributed to the production of wealth and construction of the nation. They are also part of the rich history of the Civil War. And whereas almost 10,000 Muslims reside in Contra Costa County and make innumerable contributions to the cultural, political, and economic fabric and well-being of California and the United States. And whereas American Muslims are teachers, lawyers, doctors, social workers, tech workers, nurses, and business owners, among numerous other valued professions, as well as peace builders, activists, entrepreneurs, and politicians. And whereas the California City Assembly has recognized the month of August 2022 as American Muslim Appreciation and Awareness. And whereas it is appropriate to acknowledge and promote awareness of the millions of invaluable contributions to American Muslims in California and across the country and extend to them the respect and camaraderie every American user. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon does hereby proclaim its appreciation for the efforts of the San Ramon Valley Islamic Center and the American Muslim community, their contribution to the San Ramon community, and for the lasting positive impact they have made toward the advancement of our city and our. Thank you, sir. I'm doing this lightly. We want you to speak to the cameras that keep going. I'll let you hold this. And who wants to be the first speaker?
Speaker here, being short.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, take 40 minutes.
And in the name of Allah, most beneficent and most merciful, Mayor Hudson, council member, thank you for honoring the American Muslims of San Ramon with the proclamation for the recognition of the American Muslim Month. The San Ramon Valley Islamic Center was set up more than 25 years ago, and our members have been a vibrant part of this community. At our center, we have witnessed a generation of American Muslims grew up, go to school, work, and eventually returning here to grow their families. In the past year, San Ramon Valley Islamic Center held blood drive with the American Red Cross as one of the largest donors to the Contra Costa Food Bank during our Ramadan food drive. Also, our community members are also part of the Community Highway Cleanup Program. In the last years, the San Ramon Valley Islamic Center, together with other community organizations in San Ramon, rallied more than $100,000 of resources to help the displaced people from Afghanistan. The center also received a $50,000 grant from Welcome USA towards our refugee relief effort, and we were one of the 30 organizations across the whole United States to have received that grant. So once again, we thank you for the proclamation and we wish everyone a good evening.
Did you want to speak? No, you have to introduce yourself. No, please don't go away yet. Sabina, if you have comments, we'll start with Sabina and we'll move down. I'm sure some of the councilmen.
Well, I just want to say thank you for everything you do in the community, and especially, I've been part of some of the food drives and the things we do. And particularly during Ramadan, when we are not eating as Muslims and being able to distribute that food. So appreciate everything you've done in the community. And thank you, ladies, for serving on the board there.
Well, I also want to thank you very much for all the work you do. And I know you do a lot in terms of particularly welcoming people from overseas and your food drives. And we thank you very much. You know, we used to be across the street from you, you know, our city hall was across the street. And so it was always such a good relationship there. We've moved over here, but thankfully we still have a good relationship. So thank you very much for what you do.
Mark?
Yeah, thank you very much for all your contributions, the sponsorships and the food drives and the distribution, Red Cross support. That's all just fantastic. You know, faith is such an important aspect of our community, and I just want to thank you and the Muslim community for all they've done for their contributions for our community. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Burrows?
Thank you. Thanks for all your services. If I remember right, you also provide auto donations, right, to help the families. Is it MCA through the, because when I was looking at my used car donation, so one of the thing I reviewed and I felt the best place to donate is to MCA. So I donated my car to MCA at that time. So that was must, right? So yeah, so thanks. I know the services that you do is fantastic, and especially the interfaith that plays a key role to keep our community safe. And especially this is definitely an important day for me. The timing, what happened in Albuquerque. So that's not acceptable in any community, especially in our nation. So it's very sad that these things are happening. And it's good that we are recognizing your contributions, and you're always welcome to let us know how we can help you and make it much better. Thank you.
Yeah, along the same line, my neighbor used to be, or would always invite me over. I heard actually at one of these meetings like this that he passed away. Abid Farouk and Amira, I know, was there in Ravina. And, you know, it's just, it's one of those things to highlight on what you just heard from Sridhar. Once you become neighbors, most of the other stuff sort of fades away. But then there's that moment that comes up that, you know, something just that should not happen. I'm amazed right now, and you hit on it, and I wanted to highlight this, how many calls I get about visas coming out of Afghanistan, that people are still trying to get out of Tajikistan or somewhere to get over here. And I almost want to tell them, why don't you just go to Mexico and walk across the border? Everybody else is, but it's not funny. I mean, these people are trapped there in fear of their life. So I don't know what can be done. We've tried going back through congressmen. We're kind of in between two congressmen right now. But I know it's something that just can't stop, because there's still a lot of people there that want to get out. And that program that you have, helping these people get reacquainted into our community or get acquainted into our community, is much needed. So I can't thank you enough. Any last words you'd like to say, or?
Shout out to she who runs our interfaith program with.
Well, is he going to give a speech, or is he just going to hide over there? You want to come up and say something?
To just to make sure that we're all, you know, here for each other.
Yes.
I'll just say something quick. It's an honor being part of this community, and always coming here always feels homey. I mean, this is a good city that's open-minded, it's receptive to all religions, and we're really happy to be a part of it. That's kind of the sum of it.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And please stay with it. There's still a lot of work on those visas. Okay. Thank you. Our next item is the deferred consent. I believe we had 5.4 first and then 5.5. Scott, you 5.4? I have you two mixed up.
5.4 and 5.5.
Did you just want to make some comments?
Well,
Or what did you want?
yes. I just wanted to make sure that people understood that with 5.4, a funding agreement between the Tri-Valley Transportation Council and the city of San Ramon for $2.287 million for the funding of the Iron Horse Trail bicycle pedestrian overcrossing. So we are well on the way to having that funded, and the design is complete. I know that our staff and the CCTA staff are working hard to dot the final i's and cross the final t's so that we can get a good bid package out, and so that construction for that bridge that will, we haven't lost a life at that intersection. We did lose one over at Crow Canyon and the Iron Horse Trail, but it's just a matter of time, I think, before somebody decides that they don't want to wait for the walk light and they're going to try and make it across. So now we'll have a bridge, and it will, I asked our traffic staff to do a quick study about how many hours a day that we have people punching that button. And that's not to say they shouldn't be punching the button, but it causes about 3 hours a day of red lights for the people traveling on Bollinger. And so that 3 hours a day of red light will go away. And so it'll help congestion, it'll help safety. And when you're helping congestion and safety, you're helping with greenhouse gases, and you're helping with just so many things that are going to be, because we're going to have that bridge finally.
And I will just say that because the council member has been sitting here for 20 years, we don't need a staff report on this.
No, we don't.
No. And not only that, when we get done with this bridge, we'll start on Crow Canyon. So I think later on tonight, you're going to hear about bike sharing program. And in that is the analysis that we've seen that it's going to jump. So let's stay on 5-4. You ready to move on that thing?
Yeah.
You better watch out. These guys are pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm going to be the
Through the mayor,
Yes,
we do need to open to public comment.
Oh, okay, sure.
that's why he's here. Catch that tricky mayor. Okay, let's open the public comment on 5.4. Anybody want to speak to it? Good. You didn't want to speak to it before. They don't want to speak to you now, Scott. You're closed. Now you can move.
There we go.
Tridar already got in on the second,
Yep.
and I'm
Yeah.
going to assume nobody wanted to discuss it because it was going on consent.
Yeah.
And we are 5-5 for 5-4. Let's move on to 5.5. That was your item, Sabina. Did you want someone to come up or where are you at on this?
Yeah, I did request a quick staff report.
Okay.
Mayor Hudson and fellow council members. I'm here to talk to you tonight about our request for a resolution to reject all bids for the CIP, which included the renovation of Dory Station Community Center and Dory Station Library. On the 27th of June, we issued an RFP for construction and renovation of those facilities and received quotes back on the 22nd of July. We only received 2 bids on that date, and both bids, the first bid came in from Integra Construction Services for $2.6 million and from Ella Construction Services for $2.906 million. Our engineer's estimate was $2.1 million. Based on that and doing a complete analysis of the bids, we're recommending we reject all bids. Reconsider the time frame in which we put on the total construction of both facilities, and then reissue the bid. And we feel this will be helpful in getting more equitable bids and a better spread for qualified contractors to do it. We had an extremely small window that we tried to squeeze this into to get completion, not only for the closure of the facility, but also due to the fact that this is the COP financing, and we do have a time limit on it also. So once again, and reassessing this, we feel we'd get a better shake of the spreads of the bid and move forward from there.
Comments or?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I guess, do you think the market rate has just gone up and we might end up getting higher bids and then we just on construction?
I'm sure the market has increased some of the costs of construction, but I think it really came down to the compressed timeline we put on it. We're looking now to bid this week or possibly next week, have bids in by the first part of September, come back to council with an award recommendation by the end of September, and start construction there. We've added approximately 50% to the length of the construction period. And with that being said, we feel they can spread the work over a longer period of time. And also with supply chain issues on a lot of the materials that go into it, they'll be able to procure those materials. So I think at that point, the costs will come down. And once again, spreading it over more contractors, I think we will get much more equitable bids on this.
So what are we doing to make sure we get maybe perhaps more bids, more competitive bids or?
Well, once again, we're going to be reaching out. We had a pre-bid walk with contractors that were interested, and we had over 17 contractors
Okay.
that showed up. And one of the
Nice.
major comments were about the compressed timeline.
Hmm.
So we felt that was a reason we didn't get the bids that we really thought we deserved. So that is one of the reasons. But also, we'll be doing more outreach to contractors that have done work for us in the past, such as the community center, San Ramon Community Center, and the senior center. And hopefully, those numbers will bring the overall cost down for the project.
Thank you.
Okay.
Everybody good?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
So thanks, first of all, to making sure that we are going to get better bidding. So is this going to impact any deliverable date when we are going to complete this renovation?
It
or-
will. We're looking to push it out. We originally had considered, and because of the constraints of the COP financing, that we could get this complete by December 1st, November 30th of this year. But extending the timeline, it looks like we probably will complete construction and have the facilities back up and running by the first to mid part of March. It does give us a little extra lead time,
That's cool.
wiggle time to get it
Yeah,
complete.
sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, let's open it to the public. Anybody wishing to speak to this item originally 5.5? Do we have any star nines or hands going up? Okay,
have no
seeing none, we'll
requests.
close the public comment period. And do you want to make the motion on that one, Sabina? Motion, Sabina Zafar, and second. Hey, Scott got in there quick. 5 of 5. Okay. Moving on to item 8, there are no city council appointments, though we did do a teen council interview last night. Excellent prospects. I have a feeling that the future council in 2030 is going to be made up of 16 and 17-year-olds. There's no city council appointments, no unfinished business. The highlight of the evening, right, Chris? That's why we got you here tonight. Is new business, a very exciting resolution 2022-118, and this is authorizing the mayor to execute a 12-month pilot operating agreement with Bird Rides, Inc., a national micro-mobility provider, to operate electric scooters and electric bicycles within the city of San Ramon. And we have a staff report from Chris Weeks.
Thank you, Mayor Hudson. Happy to be here. My name is Chris Weeks. If you haven't met me yet, I'm the new Transportation Division Manager here at the city. And one of the first projects I get to work on is micro mobility. As you see in this picture, e-scooters and e-bikes. And so I'm here tonight to request your approval to move forward with adoption of resolution 2022-118, authorizing the mayor to execute a 12-month pilot operating agreement with Bird Rides, a national micro-mobility provider to operate electric scooters and electric bicycles within the city of San Ramon. This pilot is an essential component of the development of mobility on demand options, or MOD, for the I-680 corridor. A MOD is a last mile micro-mobility service that is envisioned to be an essential component to a new regional mobility as a service, or MOS, which you may have heard from CCTA talking about this before. So mobility as a service, known as MOS, is one of the 6 projects that make up the Contra Costa Transportation Authority's CCTA Innovate 680 program. This program will implement a suite of projects that, when operating together, will address corridor-wide congestion, travel delays, and longstanding operational challenges along Interstate 680. The MOS project is a combination of public and private transportation services that will provide personalized mobility options based on traveler needs. So you've probably heard this before. The MOS project will be a mobility on demand, or MOD, application or app currently under development that will provide real-time multimodal trip planning options based on origin and destination data. This app will serve as up a variety of travel options based on a user's desire for the fastest, greenest, or most cost-effective trip. The app will also include a uniform payment system and incentives based on time of day and mode in an effort to reward select travel behaviors. So the priorities of this MOS will be to provide seamless travel, efficient trips, rewards for green travel. And what we need to be able to do these things is this new regional app, which we aren't developing today. We're just adding something that's essential to providing this app. And what this is micromobility options. So in addition to that, we want to have data integration, stakeholder alignment, and a regional cooperative effort to develop micromobility that we share along the entire corridor. So in order to reach this consensus, we had a series of stakeholder meetings with BART, Contra Costa County, Town of Danville, East Bay Regional Parks District, and the city of San Ramon, obviously, and the city of Walnut Creek. And what came out of these meetings was that of all the cities and organizations we talked with, San Ramon was the most ready to take on the first pilot. So this will be the first pilot on the corridor. And we're excited that the cities and towns along the corridor are also lined up and excited to learn from us. So we can develop what we see from here up to Walnut Creek. And that's what the goal is of this. In February, CCTA released a request for proposals from that the stakeholders developed and reviewed. And there were 5 providers that were reviewed. And of those, we looked at everything from their references, if they had them, their ability to fulfill our beliefs and what the system should have, the materials that they brought to the table as far as how to address low-income users or first responders, those kinds of things. And out of that initial request for proposals, Bird and Cycle Hop were selected to interview on an oral board. And in that oral board, they had to actually develop a program and show how it was going to be launched, how it was going to be maintained, how it was going to be staffed, how it would be paid for. And in the end, after the assessment of our stakeholders, Bird stepped forward as the best. And so these were some of the reasons that I noted from the history of the program. Bird really came forward with the highest quality e-bikes and e-scooters, had some great cutting edge technology that you'll see later on. They also offered it would be no cost to the city, which is really nice to have them step forward and operate their business in San Ramon and not look to the city to subsidize it for them, but operate in a sustainable way. They are interested in integrating their app into the future MOS program, which is something that was essential. And they have hired a local manager, so a local person to run the program, and they're going to hire a second person too. So those are all really good things. The negative things for Bird, it was they didn't have any local experience here, and Hopper did have that with working with Bishop Ranch. So that was I use Hopper and Cycle Hop interchangeably. They're the same company. They changed names and some stuff like that. So if I mistakenly call them Cycle Hop, they're technically called Hopper now. It's their new name. So they also are very scooter centric. So their bid came back with fewer e-bikes than we had expected and asked for. And there's lots of reasons. Most of the bidders wanted to have fewer e-bikes and more scooters. And that's because they want to make money and they want to provide people what they're asking for. And there's a huge demand for scooters right now. And they're much more profitable to operate and take a lot less maintenance with the newest version of the Bird scooter. Provides an amazing amount of intelligence from the scooter and from the rider to the company and the operator. So those are excellent reasons to go with them. See. think I touched on all that. Bird was selected and was scored 80 out of 100. Cycle Hops and Hopper scored 70 out of 100. So it's not super close, but pretty close. But the no cost to the city for the 12-month program really made a huge difference. So that's why the decision was made in the end, among other things. And the neighboring jurisdictions also plan to launch bird pilot program for last mile connectivity based on the outcome of San Ramon. So as a first step to launch the program, we hosted on July 22nd, a bird technology demo here in San Ramon for local municipal staff from the surrounding cities to come and try out the scooters and the bikes and meet each other. And some of the council members here came and tried them out, and it was great to see you. Thank you for coming. And we had a map on the table of San Ramon, and staff members could come, and even people walking by could come and mark on the map places where they wanted to see scooters in their neighborhoods. And we were able to add some that we hadn't thought of before. So that was nice. So this is what the San Ramon proposed operations are. Let's get here in my notes. So Bird calls their locations where bikes are placed nests. And a lot of the language they use is bird-oriented language. We have a bird in our logo. We're very bird friendly here, so it fits well with our local attitude. We have a bird nest is a location for e-bikes and scooters in San Ramon to be placed. And this picture here is from North Virginia and 9th Street in Reno, Nevada of a nest. It's very simple. It's not something that would catch your eye from really far away. It's a few lines in a box made of grip tape on the ground. But it's also not just that, it's also a digital box that the scooter cannot be left outside that box when ending a reservation in these nest areas. And you can also see on your phone when you're placing and ending your reservation, the location with the nest animated and pointing exactly where you should put it. So it's a whole other level of guidance provided the user so that they do the right thing and don't put us in a situation where there's a lot of disorganized scooters. So the manager of the program, who would be the local person that I told you earlier that they're bringing to the program, will balance vehicles to the nests. So whenever they find vehicles somewhere that's not a nest, and they're notified that there's a reservation that's ended somewhere that's not a nest, they will go and move the vehicle from there to a nest. And if they have their van full of vehicles that have just been charged or repaired, they'll return those vehicles to nests. They won't put those in other places. And so one thing that you should know about this also is that nests aren't the only place where someone can end a reservation. You can also end your reservation in something called the furniture zone, which in that industry describes an area that usually has a trash can or a fire hydrant nearby, or it's that space between the pedestrian walkway and the roadway, usually where a bus shelter is located or something like that. And people are allowed to end reservations there if they're going from a nest to, let's say, a bus stop and they want to take the bus. They can end their reservation in the furniture zone. And then when they do that, the operator is notified and will come out and grab that and move it to where it needs to be and rebalance it. But oftentimes, these people are taking round trip trips. So we've asked that if there is a vehicle that's been placed in an incorrect location, or there's been a report that it's in the wrong place, that they need to have it moved out of there within 4 hours. And it can be moved much, much faster than that. That's just if it's in a extreme awkward situation, after hours somewhere, they're already busy doing something else, but we give them a little bit of a window. And there's this geozone concept where I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. That's the piece I told you about, where this isn't just a box with some grip tape on the corners. It's also a digital geofence. So this is a initial proposal of where we'd have nests in San Ramon. I know it's very hard to see on the screen because it's kind of small, but we can move these anytime we want quickly behind the scenes with a click of our mouse to where we want to see it. There's 3 colored dots that are listed on here. There's the ones that Bird suggested. Those are the darkest blue dots. The dark green dots are the ones that San Ramon staff suggested. And then the avocado ones, colored dot, are the ones the Bishop Ranch requested. And I just did a couple of little zoom ins of this map. Oh wait, I forgot to say one thing back there. Sorry, going back one. It's also laid on top of the bicycle master plan map. So you can see that a lot of these pods, nests are near bicycle facilities of some sort. So that's very convenient for using them to get where you need to go. So this is a map of some proposed nest locations downtown. You can see there's dark green, there's dark blue, and the avocado pins. And there's this big red box that's the center of city center. And those are the red box shown here is what's called a no-go zone, which can be programmed into the scooter itself. So if someone tries to ride full speed into the middle of city center, the scooter will beep 3 times and shut off. So you cannot ride it in the middle of city center. But you can also set a slow go zone, and you could have an area where it's a little bit slower so that people approaching a very busy area could have the speed set to 5-6 miles an hour. And you go into that zone, it beeps 3 times and then goes down to the lower speed. And during the demo we did in front of City Hall, we had the vehicle set up like that so people could see what it felt like. So I think that setting up those zones will be part of what we do in the next month if we just choose to move forward tonight. And what we'll get is a customized system that we can customize on the fly, which is what you've heard a lot of the tech companies saying they want to do with buses. They want to be able to change the routes. They want to be able to change the stops on demand. This kind of system allows you to be able to do that from a remote location, and then you send out technicians to go and repair, replace, and retrieve the vehicles as needed. And here's just a couple zoom ins on like Doherty Valley. I thought that out here is more focused on parks. So we had a lot of need for last mile transportation from local parks and senior facilities. And I know that there's spry enough seniors that can ride a scooter and a bike, and we can pick one up and use that to get to the bus down the hill. That will solve a problem right out the gate if we have some intrepid few that are willing to try that. But it's also the people in the community who need to go shopping or something like that and just get a loaf of bread. You can do that on a scooter pretty easily. And then the other one is Crow Canyon Business District. You know, if someone wants to head to Safeway, or rather than wait in line in In-N-Out Burger, they could e-scooter down there and head right to the door and remind the guy at the counter that they're standing there and serve right behind them and get around the line.
You know, a place like Costco is just literally outside the city limit. But yet that could be a place that people want to get to. What happens there? Does it get to Fostoria and goes?
For the pilot, it does.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that it can't change very quickly. It could change with just a agreement with Danville. And I can tell you that Danville's was there the day that we did the demonstration. They're eager to move forward with the next phase. I think I spoke with their transportation leader over there, and he's going to be keeping the council apprised of what we're doing here and make sure that they're ready to hop on the bandwagon next. So this is a description of more kind of the pragmatic side. So where can you use an e-bike and an e-scooter right now? And thank you for that question, because that's exactly where I was going next. The way that we've decided it would be best to set up here so that it would be the most useful and safe, especially down here along Bollinger and the busier parts of town, is to allow bikes in the roadway if they need to be, but we prefer that they're using a bike lane or a sidewalk in these very busy areas, and we want to give them the functionality of being able to choose that. And then we could set areas that are no-go zones or slow-go zones that we feel need to be controlled. But if we do like some other cities and say no sidewalks, I think it would be a bad decision, especially in areas where the streets just aren't safe for fast moving cars and things like that. And the kind of the growing edge of the system is that the Iron Horse Trail in East Bay Regional Parks is slow to hop on board with allowing e-scooters on the trail. But e-bikes are allowed at this time. So what I'm continuing to do is work with CCTA, and I foresee in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll have East Bay Regional Parks on board with allowing a pilot access for e-scooters on the trail in San Ramon. But we still need to wait to allow e-scooters on the trail. So I think that we should do a combination of both saying that it's coming soon, but the e-scooter should not go on the trail, and put a no-go zone there. And in places where the trail has to be crossed to move from, say, City Hall over to City Center, we take the sidewalk there and make sure that they can get through those zones so that the trail can be crossed using the scooters until we get the final agreement from East Bay Regional Parks on e-scooters.
You'll be putting signs up that say this is scooter friendly zone, or?
I don't
with
think we need
bird?
to do that because
Okay.
so much is done through your phone and the device. So it warns you when you're approaching or entering a zone that you can't operate in, and you have enough time to kind of turn around and get out before you get shut down. And it gives you, and if you do get shut down, if you just roll back a little bit and wait a second, it'll start up again and allow you to start. So it's, that's a good question, but I think that would be a lot of signs. And I think that now people are more focused on their phones than what the signs that are around them, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. So that's just my opinion. Okay, so next one, this is more about the geozones. So this is what you see on your phone. It's kind of hard to see, sorry, it's so small. But in a slow zone, you actually see on your map, the map, and it has a yellow box showing you that there's a slow zone, and it tells you that you've entered it. And it says, move outside this area and your bird will resume normal speed. So the sign's right there on your phone, right in front of you.
So I can't remember if they, because I was riding a scooter the other day and it was in the no-go zone and it turned red. And then when it went into the go zone, it turned green. So that was kind of, while on the scooter. It
Yeah.
showed you that too.
Yeah, so the actual, and I'll show you that in a little bit, the face of the scooter it's like a phone. So it has indicators and larger lights that are easy to read and simple to read, that you don't necessarily have to pull your phone out of your pocket and not look where you're going to know that there's something going on. You'll see a red, green, or yellow light on your dash. And one point I wanted to make is it is accurate enough to be able to have, the difference between a few inches on the ground be one area no-go zone and another area full speed zone. So the technology has improved so much that this is a really great way to kind of experience that and roll it out. And I think we'll learn a lot about how to do it in the corridor in a way that you guys are happy with, especially if we're trying to control access to places like, the center of a park or something like that, where we don't want full speed operation. So the basics on how to use it: you download the app, you sign the user agreement right on there. There's a waiver on there. You sign the agreement and verify your age. So we've decided to move forward with 18 plus, not the state law, which is 16 plus learner's permit, because most people don't do that. And it would be, I'd say we should look at it again after a year and see if there's any other case precedents that have been made for that younger age. But for now, it's going to be 18 plus, because that's the consensus within the industry. And you add your payment method. There's a few educational tutorials that say you need to wear a helmet, you need to obey traffic laws, and then you're ready to go. And Bird will actually be giving out a lot of helmets. They were giving out free helmets at our events that we've held so far, and they'll be doing that throughout our outreach session. As we launch throughout San Ramon, they'll be giving out helmets to people to use. So this is a picture of the Bird scooter version 3. The charge time on it, 5.5 or 5.8 hours. Range is 35 miles. It's drum brakes. You can see the picture there. Top speed 15. That's the legal speed on the trail. We wouldn't want it to go any faster than that. The has front and rear LEDs that turn on automatically. Some of the technology on here is really cool. The wheels are not the hard plastic wheels that you see on a lot of the competition. They're a pneumatic tire, which is a lot more comfortable. So and they don't have a shock system like you see on some of the other competitors. Because most of the time those shocks are paired with hard wheels. So they actually end up being a lot less comfortable. And there's things like skid detection technology that they're the only ones that have it to prevent improper riding behavior. There's, I think the coolest thing about it is the kickstand. I know it sounds kind of boring, but obviously having a scooter that does not fall over when it's parked or a bike is essential. I can tell you with many, many years of bike share operating experience, kickstand has killed many bike share program. Just because when a bike falls, it gets broken every time. And brakes get broken, the handlebar gets broken, something gets broken every time it falls. But this kickstand is like a motorcycle style 2-side kickstand. And most scooters you see don't have that, but it's becoming going to be the standard in the industry going forward. It has equipment in here that has been developed as a result of problems that have happened on other scooters. So it has dynamic stability control steering, which stabilizes out of control or sudden erratic movements and guards against unsafe turns or overcorrections. Let's see. Has damage sensors that report back damage to Bird and the operator. So if something's broken on it, the operator knows about it. So I look forward to your questions and we can go deeper into the design. This is the bike. It has an 8-hour charge time, but it's swappable battery. So the operator can just pull the battery, doesn't have to pull the whole bike. Its range is 56 miles, which is substantially more than the scooter, which was 35. So this might, even though there's less in the proposed program, there for the people that have the longer trips, they can make a request to have a bike posted in their area and use that for a longer trip if they really can, if they're going back and forth across San Ramon a bunch of times during the day. The maintenance will be done by a local operator. And like I said, that person is going to usually hires 1 to 2 staff as the system gets big based on its size. And they're just waiting to grow it until we give them go ahead. But Bird is going to be the primary contact for this program. So we won't have the phones ringing off the hook here at City Hall to say, hey, there's a scooter here. Come down and move it. It's going to be all channeled through Bird. And if we feel like we want to, I was checking to see if it was possible to put it into CRM in some way so that Bird was automatically emailed if there was a report that came in, and it seemed like it's possible. So I'll look into that over the next month too. But our goal here isn't to be the point person on this. It's to enable a business to operate in San Ramon and operate their business in the way they want to and be able to make money and provide a service. So the standard pricing for users, this is if with no special deals or memberships, there's a $1 to unlock the vehicle plus a per minute fee of somewhere between 25 and 39 cents. I would assume it's going to be 39 because this number was put in during the bidding process. So we have inflation that has hit big time since this began. So I would assume somewhere near 39 cents. That's the kind of the most basic way to interact with the vehicle. If you want to have the most versatility and least obligation, you can just spend $20 and get it for unlimited unlocks and unlimited rides anywhere you want for the day. There's 2 other passes, a weekly pass, which gets rid of those unlock fees if you pay $199 for the week. And then you pay that just for the per minute fee as you ride it. And an even better deal, I think, is the monthly pass. So you pay $5.99 for the month, and then you just pay the per minute fee. And so I think most people will do that. But we'll see, and we'll keep track of it and look to create other options. They've offered to provide a low income program and a special deal for first responders. So we did have some of our police officers come and try out the scooters on the first day, and they liked them and it seemed like they already knew how to use them. I was strange, really good at it. But we were looking into, is there a way for them to use a scooter like that just to get out on the trail if there's something going on out there rather
With
than
lights and sirens?
you just put it on your helmet. We'll see how it goes.
I'm not touching.
And then we have a special deal
It's the
though.
rifle rack that really makes it uncomfortable though.
That's what I wasn't touching.
They have holsters, you know, not a
Oh.
rack. So there's a special deal that we are offering through 511 Contra Costa, which will be for the first 3 months will be subsidized by 511 Contra Costa for that $5.99 a month. So for the first 3 months, whoever wants to try it, all they got to pay for is using the number of minutes they use it. And then after that first 3 months, they could decide whether they want to join up and become a full-on member. I think that's a pretty great deal. And it's great that 511 Contra Costa wants to help us with that.
So did they roll out similar pricing for any other cities?
Yeah. So you're looking for comparison pricing compared to what?
Yeah, because I see for me, the demographics that are going to use this mobility is mostly young teens and youth, right? So 18 plus, so mostly youth,
18
right?
plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so youth, right? So I'm thinking maybe these prices are pretty expensive for
It's
youth.
not.
Yeah.
Now, after we get through questions, I'll tell you what the initial pilot program was doing on the
Yeah.
peninsula.
We can go through that. It's definitely not too bad, especially if you compare it to, you know, owning a car, owning a motorcycle, owning any other kind of vehicle. It's drop in the pan for that. But then it's also, you know, a lot of these vehicles will not necessarily be used by young people. I think they'll be used by all kinds of people. And that's why I even mentioned that you could possibly have seniors using it to get to the bus and stuff like that. Because they're really good for, you don't have to go 1,000 miles an hour. That's we see a lot of these kids riding e-scooters and e-bikes, and they have the pedal to the metal. You don't have to ride around that fast all the time. And not all users like to do that. It's just the teens that are going to be doing that. So I think that we're going to see a lot more people riding them, different kinds of people, people that want to use it for lunch, especially if we're able to have San Ramon and Bishop Ranch downtown on board together, getting people coming from their businesses to eat lunch at City Center. I think we'll see a lot of use there, at least initially. In the neighborhoods, we'll have to experiment more to see who we get and who will be the best users. I think a lot of families will have the opportunity to get rid of maybe a second car. If there's a nest in their neighborhood and there's someone in the house that just needs to go to swimming practice each day or something like that, and they have 2 cars because they can't coordinate getting in one, you know, it might make up for that. So there's other types of people that could use it and use cases that maybe you haven't seen yet or haven't been talked about that I think we could help develop.
Will you have access to the data collected? Because this kind of thing is going to have a tremendous amount of data. You're going to know the age of the user. You're going to know where they started, where they ended, how much time they spent, whether they're a monthly user, a daily user, a weekly user. You're going to get a lot of data. And are you going to have access to that data?
Not every bit of data. I would be dishonest to say we'd have access to everything.
Okay.
But I do have, there is a representative of Bird who's on the phone right now. And if he's there, is Robert Singleton available?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Let me know when he is there. Robert, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
Hey, Robert, thanks for joining us here today. I
course.
was wondering if you could talk about the data component. What kind of data sharing can we expect to be able to have with the users of the new San Ramon Bird pilot?
So the city will have access to an interactive dashboard that'll show you all of the aggregate ride data that we think is important. So start location, end location, time of ride, distance of ride, a lot of the larger aggregate metrics. We don't share the personalized data of individual riders with anyone, not just cities. So it's not, we just, in the interest of preserving our users' privacy, we prefer to keep it in the aggregate sense, but that data can still be very useful for planning future projects, understanding rider habits, and making informed decisions for the future.
Okay, does that get at what you're?
I wasn't going down to the individual user level, but the fact that you would be able to say, gee, the bulk of our users are between 18 and 35, or the bulk of our users are over 50, you know, or they're going from this area to that area, you know, where are we finding most of the use? And you'll find that some bird nests are just never, ever used. And so you'll, hopefully over time, you'll be able to optimize the bird nests and introduce new ones that weren't obvious at the beginning, but became obvious when they get used.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that they'll do that because that's how they make the money. You know, they want to make money off the program, so they want the vehicles be available where people want them. So, all right. So if you could stay on the line, that would be great, Robert. Okay, and so the next slide is just the outreach I've planned next. We're almost done, so you've been very patient. We've already have an article slated for the City of San Ramon newsletter coming up, so I'll be going to people's homes, just kind of a teaser that the program's coming. I'd like to put cards, what they call bus cards, inside the county connection buses in this area. They're what you see when you're sitting on the bus and you look up at the ceiling. There's cards along both sides, and they're very, very either. If we can do a partnership with them, sometimes they can take care of the price, or it's a very affordable price to be able to put those in there. And we intend to advertise the program there. We intend to do tabling at the San Ramon farmers markets, and that'll be a tent like you see in the picture. And if you looked at the map earlier, you'll see that there was demand in that area where the farmers markets are, and because I didn't mention that, but the way Bird provided their input as far as where the pins are is they did it based on kind of travel data, phone travel data, and where trips are starting and ending. And so a lot of those pins were very similar to pins that we had put down for what we thought, but some were surprises. And one of them was the farmers market was a pretty popular destination. So we're hoping that tabling there will be a good way to get people to use the scooters to go to the farmers market or the bikes. We also are interested in using our social media accounts, and also Bird has offered to do a whole launch for San Ramon on their social media accounts. They're able to target their outreach to specific demographics or specific zip codes. So we can do some really targeted outreach, which I think will be really effective on social media. And we'll be looking to partner with other programs in the city as we have new outdoor concerts, hopefully, and other events to have Bird there present and be able to partner on projects and maybe if they're successful in our town, sponsor some things too, to get more people to experience these really great mobility devices. So this is my contact information, and next to that is Robert's. I'll make sure to share this presentation with all you guys, so you'll have all these links and maps and things. And be happy to hear from you about any questions you had, but my request for tonight is that staff recommends adoption of this resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a 12-month pilot operating agreement with Bird Rides, a national micromobility provider, to operate electric scooters and electric bicycles within the city of San Ramon. And our next steps are we want to execute the contracts, begin our outreach, start nest making in the community. So I'm looking actually to make those, rather than using the black tape, to use blue tape that matches the city of San Ramon colors and Bird's colors. Develop a list of slow-go and no-go zones for programming. So we'll be collecting those also. Develop a list of no parking locations. So if there's areas where we just do not want to see scooters left, we can mark those areas. I'm planning to provide regular updates to council, and you'll see those in the staff report. Provide regular updates to Danville and Walnut Creek staff also as we move forward, trying to get them on board sooner rather than later, so we don't have those stop trips at the Costco that you were talking about earlier, Scott. And then we'll continue to work with CCTA and East Bay Regional Parks to open the trails to e-scooters. That's very essential and important for this program, and I'm putting a lot of energy into making sure that happens.
Because we're actually looking at having some nests on private property, places like Bishop Ranch, have we contacted maybe the local churches and the Islamic Center and places like that might be places for nests as well?
Yeah, I think we're open to any of those things. I have not done contacts like that. I've contacted mainly places where people are going to be shopping as the first layer. But I think that Bird would want to do wherever there's rides, potential rides, they want to put vehicles there. So it's not that we're limited to a certain number. As we grow the number, they're excited to have more nests.
Sure.
So I think that, yeah, they would be.
What
open to
happens
that.
if a person wants to take one home? What happens there?
You mean just ride home and then not bring
Yeah.
it back or bring it into the house?
Yes, we talk about the last mile, the first mile and last mile. Well, the first mile and last mile start at my house or end at my house.
Sure.
So
Well,
if
there's
we,
this-
if
there's
we
this-
can't get to my house and I have to walk a half a mile
Yeah.
to get to the bird nest, then we haven't solved my
You
problem.
don't, yeah, you don't have to. That's that's not your problem. Your problem is just, when you go out the next morning, that scooter will not be where you left it because it'll be balanced back into a nest somewhere. So
Okay.
if you ride that scooter from a nest or a transit location or your mosque or wherever you picked it up, and you ride that home and you leave it in the furniture zone of the street nearest to you and end your reservation, you might have a little walk to your house, but will be close enough for you to easily walk. Then when that reservation's ended, the operator will be notified that there is a scooter that's not in a nest. And if he or she feels that that scooter is not going to be used within a few hours, they'll go and grab it and relocate it to a nest location. If they know that there's regular users in that area and it's going to get reused within an hour, a couple hours, they'll just leave it there for the next person to come get it. This is an iterative process and it's a pilot. So we're hoping to learn from it. There's more radical versions of your question. You know, someone picks it up and carries it into their house and like, I'm not only taking this home, I'm taking it to dinner. You know, then you lift that thing up and it's going to set off an alarm. You know, I mean, you'll be paying for it when you have it, but, and yeah.
Okay.
And there's another thing I didn't mention that you reminded me of, that let's say you want to go shopping. You go to Safeway or Whole Foods or wherever you're going to be going, you pull up out front and you can tell it to hold for you and it'll lock. It'll give you 15 minutes to go in and go shopping, come back, and it'll hold that scooter for you. So if someone tries to come and grab it and take it away, you'll still have that scooter waiting for you when you get out, as long as you don't spend a huge amount of time in that particular store. You could always go out and just move it over a little bit and restart it and hold it again. But the idea is that there'll be enough scooters there for people not to have to do that once we have enough. Right now, we're starting with 120 scooters and 30 e-bikes. And that's not a lot. And it's not enough that you would have a situation where that you may have seen in other cities where there's lots of scooters piled up somewhere. That can't happen with this number of scooters in such a large service area. And it won't be allowed to happen. And the only time that would happen is if we had thousands of scooters. And I hope we get to that day, but if we do, it would only be if there was rides taking place, not if there's scooters sitting there not being used. In that scenario, they'd be removed. Like during the winter time when there's a lot less use, they'll pull some scooters in to reduce the fleet if it looks like they're not getting used.
Can you describe the liability issues and how liability is handled for the customers and the person the customer hits?
That's a good question. I can talk about my understanding and then let's get, Robert, are you still there?
Yes.
Okay, can you talk from Bert's perspective about liability and then I can discuss it a little bit?
Yeah, so we have a pretty thorough terms and conditions agreement that all riders need to abide with in order to continue to ride our vehicles. And we do require people to supply some form of identification, and we accept a lot of different forms. So we have a record of folks. We have a mechanism by which community members can report, improper riding behavior. So we really try and cover our bases, but ultimately it comes down, if a rider is acting inappropriately, by signing the terms and conditions, the city of San Ramon and Bird are not going to be liable for poor riding and reckless riding.
And so what about an accident situation? Can you shed some light on what would take place in that scenario?
It's pretty dependent on the type of accident. We've dealt with minor collisions where it's been just between peer to peer. We haven't had to get involved. We do have a legal team on standby, and we have, worked in some instances to, in fact, on the same side as cities in terms of representing our folks in regards to, again, improper writing habits. So, but we feel pretty confident with the terms and conditions that we have. And, if we have to get involved, we will, but ultimately we think that we've set aside some good guidelines for do's and don'ts about how to ride effectively and safely. And if people aren't willing to abide by that, it's ultimately on them. So.
There was an article in today's paper, yesterday's paper about Richmond, and they can't get a hold of their vendor, and they've got bikes and scooters littered all over town, apparently.
Yes, that's Bolt.
What company is that, and how do we avoid that?
Well, that's Bolt, and it's I think it was founded by a famous sprinter, Usain Bolt, celebrity athlete. We want to avoid that. Obviously, we part of the selection process of Bird was looking for companies that are successful, that are well managed, and are financially stable. And Bird was started by a former Uber employee and has become as my understanding, Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are now a public company and are doing well and have lots of experience. Can you talk a little bit about that part of your experience and how you're different than something like Bolt? Because we had Bolt disappeared from Richmond. I don't know if you heard that article.
I had heard that, but just to reaffirm, Bird is a publicly traded company. All of our financials are, we have quarterly reports that we make that are publicly available. We feel comfortable in our capital position. We are expanding to numerous markets around the Bay Area right now. We just launched in Santa Rosa. We'll be launching a program in Pleasant Hill. We've just launched in Santa Clara actually 2 days ago. So we feel comfortable in our position, and we like the Bay Area, and we're committed to staying in San Ramon. The duration of the pilot is not going to be an issue for us staying here with our vehicles.
Thank you. Comfortable with that?
Any further questions before we open up public comment? Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate this presentation, and had a good time doing the demonstration the other day too.
Thanks for coming.
I had a question on cost, and for the pilot program, there's no cost to the city. Is there talk about what the cost would be beyond the pilot program if we decided to go forward?
There's been some discussions, but not exactly that question. That this pilot is designed to be the first of several pilots that are coordinated all by CCTA, and will be, I feel in the long run, will be under a master contract with all of the cities, and will be funded in a way that is coordinated by the county. So the purpose of this pilot is to learn and then share that knowledge with other cities and get them so that they're willing to try pilots in their towns. And as we roll out the mobility as a service app, at that point, we'll start looking at what happens next and where the funding will come from for the next phase of the program. I think will be coordinated more on a county level. I think currently, since this is free for us, I think it's, and that I'm excited that Bird is excited about San Ramon also. So I would like to move forward with working with them. But if indeed there is an interest only by San Ramon and no one else wants to do it for some reason, and the MOS doesn't happen, which I guess there's a slim possibility that would happen, then we'd have to make sure that Bird was making money off their operations. And that's their model. Their model isn't to come into a town and charge a town to have them put scooters there. In my previous work for Sunset at Bishop Ranch, I wanted Bird to come there to do scooters for us, and called them and said, "Hey, will you come?" And I said, "We'll pay." And they said, "No." They said we weren't big enough yet. And they didn't have a big enough presence in the area. Now they're confident enough to move into this area. And I think as long as their business is operating and they're making money, that's what they want to be doing. That's their purpose for being. So I don't think that we should be concerned about that next phase. I think that if they're making money, we're good. If we want to keep them and they aren't making money, then I think we would have to look at it, trying to figure out how we would pay to keep them here.
Yeah. Okay. I had another question on the coordination ongoing with East Bay Regional Park District on the e-scooters. I see e-scooters all the time. The park district has to know that there are scooters on the trail, on Iron Horse Trail. Any word on what the hesitation is there?
I know just from talking with East Bay Regional Parks employees about their concerns about opening the trail to scooters. And you're right, there's scooters on the trail now every day. They're stretched thin for enforcement on the trail, and that's always been the case. That's kind of an understatement.
Then I haven't seen an East Bay Regional Park District police officer there in 30 years.
Yeah, that's really thin, really thin. But they don't have the capability to enforce on that level. And I think they know that. And that's why they haven't been doing it as much. But I think that they really want to make sure there's a path set for separation between different types of vehicles operating on the trail in the long run. So having a kind of a bicycle ped zone and then maybe an electrically operated vehicle zone. I think that that's what they'd like to see in the long run someday. Maybe just marked off separately. I don't think that that's happening anytime soon. And so I think in the interim, they have already had a pilot for e-bikes and found that if they're operated within the speed limit, pedal elect assist bikes that don't go faster than 15 play well with the other users of the trail. And so that's why they've decided to allow e-bikes on those trails. And I think they need to do the same pilot for scooters and make it clear that there's a certain speed that these vehicles can be operated safely on the trail until that great day when we have a grade separated facility where we can operate electric and non-human powered vehicles in a different area than the human powered vehicles.
Yeah. When you were talking about, I think you were talking about the user agreement and the data the user has to fill out. And I think you made reference to something having to do with safety, and I didn't quite catch it, but I saw the table there, handing out for farmers market, hand out some helmets and things like that. What's the helmet or the safety?
The safety
deal?
piece is actually every time you go into the app, you're given a series of guidance screens, for lack of a better word, that you have to swipe through to move forward. And they include information on, you have to wear a helmet on this vehicle. You're expected to operate and follow the rules of the roadway. And, after a few rides, people will be quickly swiping through those things, but it's not like they're going to go away. I mean, they're always in front of you and always reminding you that you need to operate in that way. And that's part of the controlling the liability for them, is making sure that that's clear. And they're also, the helmet piece was as part of this pilot, they're going to be giving away a lot of helmets.
Yeah.
As we learned, we needed more extra large helmets than we had on hand. So we're going to have them invest in some of those for our next event, and some more extra smalls too, which is interesting. But I think that at the farmers market, that will be a good fit. It'll be a place where people have a little more time to learn a little bit and be able, and they have a bag already. You can take their helmet at that time and sign up. And they might even be able to use it. If it's a couple, one of them can use that scooter to get home or something like that and try it out that day. So hopefully that gets at your question.
Thank you. And then I remember back, last February when this was initially presented to us about the whole micro mobility on demand system, and they were talking about a Bay Area app.
Yes.
What I think I'm seeing here is more of a local, regional, bird related app. And that's going to, I assume, if that's all approved and we move forward, that will then tie into the grander
Yes.
app.
And that was part of selecting Bird, is that they're willing to share the data. They're integration friendly, is how I was talking about them. So they're willing to share data with the MOS system so that people can indeed get a trip plan that includes multi modes. So they'll use that app that would include a bus and a scooter, or a bus and a car share, or a bus and a share bike, or a bus and train. It could do that all in one app, and we could push out incentives to people who do the things that we're trying to encourage. Like if you take a scooter to the farmer's market, you get a little discount that day or a special benefit at one of the vendors there. or something like that. So that's the grander vision of that 680 corridor wide app. It's not, it won't be a bird app. It'll be a CCTA produced app that will use the bird data. And we think bird is the best fit for this corridor. And so that's why we're picking them for the pilot. And we think that the other agencies along the corridor will pick bird also, especially as they do the work they need to integrate with mobility as a service.
Okay, thank you. This is a great presentation, as I said, and I think it's an exciting initiative, and I'm looking forward to seeing the pilot program get initiated. I think the devil's in the details when it comes to the operating agreement, and so I kind of look forward to seeing what the final end state is on that. And but thank you so much.
Can we open public comment or do
I
further
had a
questions?
question. Yeah, I had a couple of questions. One around the helmet, right? People sometimes may not go with the intention that they will be riding. So how do we manage that?
Right. It's not a law that adults have to wear a helmet. They can't be cited or ticketed for not wearing a helmet. Lights is different, but a helmet, no. So if someone chooses not to, that's their choice, but they're expected to wear a helmet.
Okay. So
Hey, Robert, are you on the line?
Yes.
So what other helmet related stuff do you guys do? Is there, do you ever do anything about reminding people to wear helmets? Or if you hear that someone's riding around without a helmet, can you reach out to that user on behalf of Bird and say, hey, people are saying you're not wearing a helmet, wear a helmet? Are there things like that you can do?
I'll highlight two kind of programmatic elements. So one is we have this feature called Helmet Selfie, where riders can get discounts on future rides by taking a picture of them with their helmet on before they start a bird ride. So we have that enabled in a number of North American markets. It's something we can turn on and off at will. If we're starting to see a problem, we can go ahead and turn it on and see if that makes a difference. The other thing that we offer is that through the information part of the app, every Bird user can request a helmet shipped to them free of cost and can select their size. All they have to do is pay shipping and handling. So you can get essentially not free, but very low cost helmets, just the cost of shipping and handling sent directly to your door if you're a Bird rider.
So but it's the selfie thing is what I wanted to talk about. So I mean, we can start something like that.
Yeah.
And since it's a pilot, I think that Bird is open to trying new stuff with us too. So there might be things that they'd be willing to try for us. And like if we target younger users and say, if you ever have a younger user, we want to have them do the helmet selfie or, extra reminders to wear a helmet or something like that, not just hang it on the handlebars like we see so much with kids.
Yeah. And then as far as media goes, right, San Ramon is unique in doing this. Are we reaching out to Innovation Tri-Valley and those guys, letting them know, we're at the forefront of doing some of this?
We've been talking about it, and CCTA has been talking about it and talking about us doing the pilot first. Like all things, it's not completely clear that we're 100% the first, because Pleasant Hill actually signed their own separate contract, not part of the MOS development, but just their own separate contract. And they're going to be starting up right around the same time as us. I mean, I think I'm excited for them, and I think it's definitely interesting, and hopefully we can get them folded into the larger contract once we're all up and running, and get them and us all in the CCTA contract in the end. But I'm definitely would like to do that, and we should definitely get credit where credit's due once we get this going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see if we have anybody who wants public comment, and then we'll come back to comments. Public comments open. Any cards?
I don't have any speaker cards, but I do have 3 hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, let's call them in.
Call-in user.
It's gonna take 2 minutes.
Hi, I have questions and comments. I'm surprised that, first of all, I don't really know who is it Mr. or Miss Week? I can't really tell from the voice. And Chris, the first name doesn't tell me either. And the agenda is this transportation manager. So to me, this is all new. And then the presentations that were listed, that were presented to the policy meeting committee, the transportation advisory committee, that was the last one was a year and a half ago. So I think it's really strange that you are entering an agreement contract really so soon. Why didn't you run this by open space? Why didn't you run this by parks? I mean, don't you think that there need to be some sort of rules? The other day, I almost got hit by an electric scooter in my car going through the parking lot at the community center. The teenager was zipping around, like completely disregarding traffic rules or anyone. I mean, like he went from my left all the way, like right in front of me to the right. Really, this is so unsafe. And I don't quite understand that if there is somebody who gets hit, say there is a toddler on the trail, and then, you know, he or she is much, much slower and much, much shorter, and God help him or her just learning how to walk, is run down, God forbid, they might die, you know, by this e-scooter. I'm sorry, from what Bird just said, they're covering their own rears. Who is covering? I mean, there's like absolutely no money that would go to compensate for any hospital
Please wrap up,
bills.
caller. It's 2 minutes.
Did you say 2 minutes? I thought I usually have
I said
3
2
minutes.
Okay.
Huh?
Yes. Who's the next speaker?
Oh gosh. Okay, you don't want to hear me anyway.
Chadi Chosbeck.
Chadi, take 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council member. And Chris, congratulations on the new job. I didn't know that you have that. So good to see you all back in person, being in person too. I know I don't have only 2 minutes. So first, I want to express my support for the program. Chris and I have been talking about this for a long time. Also have had that conversation on the Economic Advisory Council, as some of you know. So I want to express my support. Great idea. I'm glad we finally got there. I do have a couple of quick suggestions for the team who's putting this together. The areas in South San Ramon, when you put the map up, I couldn't see very well because I was watching my phone, but there's very few nest locations. I think in the morning would be helpful to have more of those in the South San Ramon area to help the residential areas do trips on scooter to shopping centers. I also was kind of a little disappointed that that's cut off at 18. I don't know why, if we were allowed to do it at 16, why wouldn't we do that? Because I think a lot of the high school traffic could benefit from that, particularly in the residential neighborhood when we have a lot of traffic coming in from different places. And I think it would be a benefit for our high schoolers to use them, and they love to scoot around on their own anyway. So why don't we give them that offer? But other than that, I'm full support. Let us know how we can help you, and great work. And I hope that the pilot is successful. Oh, one last quick comment. I hope the contract with Bird has the flexibility to move the nest areas around as we respond to demand, and it's not set one at the beginning and doesn't move later. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Chadi. And our last speaker is? Mystery?
Joyce Carr.
Joyce, you have the floor. Take 2 minutes. Tell us something good.
Hi, good evening.
Hi,
Well,
Joyce.
I'm just curious, is there any town in our area or a town, city very similar to ours that has done this program, done the year tryout or even gone further than that and done the program that we could kind of look and see how it went and just have some idea of how things are going with the program, if there is such a city that has something like that going. I'd like to drive to the city and just kind of check it out.
Okay, I'll address that. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, any other speakers?
That was the last request to
Okay.
speak, and we did have one written comment for this item. as
We'll
well.
close the public comment after we hear that one written. There's that Susie or the other. Oh, we did have one in your packet. Did you see that? Yes,
From Billy Hurley.
yeah, that was a good point. Let me start it off with some comments. First, if you can, make sure Rudy Horta at CCCTA, she may be able to tell you what bus stops are picking it up and we may want to use it. I didn't see, it wasn't clear there whether or not the college had something,
Yes.
especially when we get that,
Yes, for sure.
if we ever get that shopping center going. As Chris knows, I was involved with the original pilot program that the Air District had. And the biggest problem is one that I think we're addressing with Bird. We couldn't keep anybody in business. I mean, it was, and we went from 400 to 1,000, and it was on the peninsula. And to address one of the questions that Sridhar alluded to, 89% of our usage was in San Francisco. And it was predominantly businessmen and women down in, I can't believe how many of these things I saw in south of Mission. It is extremely used in the city, both the scooters and, in fact, the scooters were overused. I don't know where you could just park them anywhere. I don't know how they ever took care of that. I think that was Lime at the time.
Yeah.
I think Bird may have been in there at one time. I know Ford was, kept changing different people, different situations. But when you came off of Embarcadero, the bikes were gone. You saw the same thing in Chicago, see the same thing in Washington, DC. This is a very popular program. MTC took it back and went up to 7,000 bikes. And I keep thinking Richmond was part of that because it stayed in that area. But Scott Haggerty fought for some money. I'm sure MTC will have forgotten this. So there may be a possibility to expand more. We're supposed to have like $3 million out of MTC. Good luck getting it, but we knew it was going to be successful because of what you did at Bishop Ranch. You took, forget what they were doing. Here was one that worked. But I can tell you as late as 2018, when I was back at conference in Chicago, and I think Bird was there and 8 others, you knew this was going to make it. It's probably figuring out the docking as we talk for the scooters and for the bikes on how far you're going to be able to take this. But this program is going to work. I'm very happy to see, and I was going to suggest that Pleasant Hill be asked about this because Pleasant Hill is going to hit on this very big. But it's a pilot program. We can show how it works. And I don't know exactly how long ago, but Scott, Mike Shemansky and I were talking about this when we were on East Bay Regional Park District Citizen Advisory about bikes being on the Iron Horse Trail. And that was the biggest question. I have negotiations with East Bay Regional Park District. Let's make sure that we also have the county on board. I think they're the ownership. This is just a license for maintenance.
Yep.
But I'm not exactly high on them right now, but I will tell you, it's business people and older people. And you can see it on the Iron Horse Trail now, even more than the kids that are buying into this. And it's only a matter of time before Pleasant Hill comes back with the request they have to do this between Walnut Creek and Pleasant Hill. And you're going to see the same thing in Dublin to that BART station. I'm certain of it. So I know there's going to be no problem having Danville buy on it. They're going to want to expand onto this. Robert and I have talked about it even with bus service, but you're going to see something between the 2 BART stations, the Dublin BART station and Pleasant Hill, where the demand is. And now that we've talked about our overpass, we get this thing on Crow Canyon and they're all up and down the Iron Horse Trail. This thing is going to be a very big part of Innovate 680, which Scott is on. As far as Moss, I'm sorry, just as a side piece on this, I have to laugh because that's all we talked about at CCTA, MOS, mobility as a service. Till we went into DOT and Vincent Valdez says, we don't want to call it MOS anymore. That's Europe. It's MOD. So we changed all the documents to mobility on demand. That's the only difference between the two. But I can tell you this thing's coming fast. There probably are more vendors now than Bird would appreciate, but they're here to stay now. This is not something that's fly by night. I'm glad we're the pilot program. We were the pilot program for Go San Ramon and use it TNCs for instead of shuttles every time you want to go to BART. But those trips from here to BART are going to be huge in the future if we can make this thing go. So anybody else want to make some comments on there or motion, Sridhar?
Thanks, Chris, for excellent presentation. I'm definitely excited about this whole program. especially their high quality service with no cost to the city, and also the technology. So the way they are going to make sure it is managed, all the speeds and all that, it's excellent. One of the important and critical piece for quality of life in our community is accessibility, because we run a lot of services, we run events, all these things, right? So one of the question always I get is how we can get there. So I think that this will help us to solve that puzzle. So I think it's definitely a win-win situation for us. So we need to work with Bird and make sure it is successful, so that it improves the quality of life for our residents. And on the pricing side, why I mentioned that is I'm looking from the Doughty Valley side, where anything you want to go, it takes at least 15 minutes, even if you want to get a coffee. So if I calculate that like $1, then on top of it, if it is 39 cents, if I ride to get a coffee, I'll be paying, and then coming back, I'll be paying almost $8 just to get a coffee by that ride.
Are
A
you
$5
crying
coffee?
for the poor rate for District 3?
Six for the, yeah.
Oh,
Maybe $10 for that.
So
Easy prices,
the
yeah.
man would lobby to get our.
So
Let's
that's
get it
the
on
only
ice
thing I'm
cream,
thinking out
Mr.
loud. Otherwise, definitely I'm excited about this. I'm looking forward for this pilot program. Thank you.
Okay, anybody willing to make
Yeah,
the motion? Oh,
I
go
was
ahead,
just going to
Connie.
make a couple of comments. Obviously, I am beyond excited because Joe knows and Debbie knows I've been bugging them since day one. Can we please get this year? And I think we're finally at a point where, concerns that were there even 4 years ago, where who would pick up and, who would take care of some of these have been mitigated. So I think I'm glad we're ready and we're here. There is an Iron Horse Advisory Committee meeting on Monday. If there is something you would like me to mention there, and I haven't checked the agenda yet, or if you're mentioning something, how do we advocate for getting, again, it was a train. Those were the train tracks converted to trails. So, we are now changing the future of mobility. So anything we can do to kind of advocate for, multimodal transportation on there would be great. The other thing I would probably advocate eventually for is 16 plus. I think there's a lot of students now that are either working, and we did the teen interviews, and almost all of them were, working either at the pizza shop, or they were working at the cookie place, Crumble, or something like that. So I know their parents don't always want to drive them over or to soccer games. So was there a reason why we didn't go with 16?
Yeah, we were looking at it at the beginning, and to give Joe a credit, he was on board with that and wanting to do that to start out.
Okay.
I think it's possible to do, but I think as a pilot, I think it's probably not the best place to do that. I think it's, and just from talking with Bird about this, they've chosen that particular 18 plus number for their liability, for their own protection.
Okay.
And my main priority, similar to what Mayor Hudson was saying, is that they are able to stay afloat as a company and operate in a way that they make a profit in this market and want to grow. And I want to make sure that they're set before they start taking a chance like that. And I think that they feel that same way. Talking with Robert, who's still on the line, he might be able to speak for himself here, but it sounds like they'd be open to trying it at some point. But I didn't get a particular date about when they would be interested in doing that. Robert, do you have anything you want to say about why you're advocating for the 18 plus rather than the 16?
I mean, I think you expressed it already. There's just, 16-year-olds don't have the ability to sign the terms and conditions with the full legal weight that an adult would. And therefore, in the interest of just, if we're in a pilot program, we want to make sure we get this right. And we're doing it within the best interest of compliance. So, it's definitely something we're open to looking at in the future. Trust me, like we hear that constantly from many communities that we want to have 16 plus, especially people who are able to drive cars with a learner's permit. Why not electric scooters? It resonates. I understand and I sympathize. But at this point, given just a pilot program, We just want to make sure that we can operate a program by the book. And so just not introducing, new avenues for liability at this point is probably best.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe we look at like, as it becomes part of the MOS or MOD or whatever we decide to call it, we look to inviting in new users and
Yeah.
looking at that, because there is law supporting that 16 plus or
Because they rush to get that driver's license. I know now PD has them take, if they need parking at the high school, they have to take the class and everything. So in a way, changing that behavior. I mean, we're also one of the only countries that allows a license at 16.
Mhm.
And so how do we kind of discourage them from driving as well? I mean, parents can always buy them their scooters and they can ride those, but I think those are some of the things that, when they have options, they're like, okay, do I want to drive to school or, will scooter be something? But I understand from Bert's point of view in running the business and everything,
but we should definitely set our goal to include as many user groups as possible. And I think that keeping that language in our documents as we move forward, that our goal is to try to include that at some point, I think would be a good idea. So that's a good point. So I'll try to do that.
I would just add 2 points on that. When the conference in Chicago, when these things were coming out of the woodworks, the insurance companies, and you start talking about vagaries and stuff like that. I don't blame them. On a pilot program, I'd start at 18 too. You can always improve. But Scott talked to it one, but what happens if somebody hits one? Well, then everything goes into flux and we find out where the insurance company is going. The other side of it is both Sabina and I are on this Iron Horse Trail, and I have looked at it. I am going to bring it up. But I'm deciding whether or not I want to bring it up before or after I rip them about that golf course agreement that was made where they're charging them money. So, I mean, we may have to, but the key to it really is going to be is that it succeeds in Pleasant Hill and San Ramon. I mean, you made it work at Bishop Ranch. I can tell you Club Sports should have one too. I'm amazed at how many people take that bike up there. You gotta be crazy. I walk it down, ride it up. Anyway, but yeah, this is coming. And in fact, it's more than coming. It's here right now. But you've got to make it work. So this next month, it's the same thing as Momentum. And we were using these TNCs instead of paying for a bus. And you get half the money paid. These kind of programs, if we can make them work, then when we go for grants for the big stuff on Innovate 680, we get them. And it really ticks people off because we're supposed to be the little pea shooter that doesn't get money, but we keep getting $8 million grants. And a large part of it is this: you've got to have first and last mile. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's full speed ahead. Any further discussion before we make a motion, or somebody want to jump in?
I have one more
Go
comment.
ahead.
Regarding the safety, I really like their effort on getting helmets. And is it possible to reach out to our street smarts or smart streets to see if they can help with educating?
Definitely
providing?
is, of course.
Because
Yes.
these are pretty easy to do it, but then there are people who need some
They're
help.
bikers, Sridhar, that you can't stop them from between he and what's his name and Street Smarts. They'll be designing helmets. They'll be putting who's got the coolest design helmet. That'll be the next.
Not only helmets, but
Yeah.
maybe we can provide a like training area where they can ride and learn and
As
do.
part of the Street Smarts educational components. we
That
could
will be
definitely,
great, yeah.
Have some points that we bring up the scooter program and talk about it. I mean, the problem is that a lot of the Street Smarts stuff is for younger kids.
Yeah.
And
And Mark
they
does
can't
a
use the
good job.
program. So I think that with Street Smarts talking about stuff, they should definitely do it because a lot of these kids already have their own personal scooters that their parents have bought them. So safety on these things is important, and modernizing that information is something that they'll probably be needing to do as there's more electric personal mobility available to kids, from their families. So, I mean, yes, it's a good point, but I don't think they should necessarily be talking about this bird pilot, but maybe e-bikes and e-scooters that they'll be using given to them by their parents.
Yeah. Like, for example, the first time anybody want to do it, like if they want to go some place where they just learn and before they do it or understand how it works. So if they have some area where they can go and test it out, that will be helpful.
so we have the bike festival coming up, right? So perhaps that could be
I'm thinking more than like continuous program, something like weekly or something, so that people.
She was saying that
So even that place,
Yeah.
anywhere where they can test ride and make sure that they understand what exactly they're getting rather than.
That's Bird's bread and butter. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And they'll put up a tent and block off some space and let you go for a ride.
Perfect.
And it's definitely something that I think, I know when I first rode the Bird scooter, I rode it once around the parking lot to make sure everything was fine. And then I went for the bigger, faster rides. So they usually block off a little space in front of their tent or right in the area and can guide people to where they need to go. So yeah, that's definitely something. we'll
Before I
include.
forget, Joyce Carr asked a question, which city? I think Mountain View would probably be a good one. I don't know if Bird's there. If Bird has a city that's about our size that they could suggest on the peninsula.
Yeah, Robert, do you have one that you could suggest that'd be a good city for someone to visit to see what they might be anticipating San Ramon to be like in the future?
So there's a couple ones. I would say we just launched Santa Clara earlier this week. So Santa Clara is a great one. Redwood City, we're operational there. Santa Rosa, if you're looking in the North Bay. And then we are active in Sacramento and a couple of surrounding communities there. We're also operational in Hollister, if you want to go all the way down the 101 there.
She's not
So
that far.
Yeah. No, I
Redwood
think-
City's about the
I
max.
think you hit it with Santa Rosa or Redwood City.
So
or
they cross the
Sacramento.
chickens over there?
Yeah. Anyway, any last comments before somebody fights to be the mover? See, and look at him go for it. All right. Thank you for a great presentation, Chris. And the mover is Sabina Zafar beats Sridhar Varose second. And look at them just line up. It's 5 of 5, I believe, if we've got it there. Everybody likes your program. It's great to take a vote, but now you have to make it work. So whatever it takes, make it work.
You hear that, Robert?
Otherwise, Bird will be going somewhere else. But if Robert, if you're still on there, you picked the right city, 99th largest city in the state. And we love this stuff. I'm telling you, once that bridge goes up, it will be filled. And there's a bike lane on it.
Yep.
And somebody I know wants a bike
Did the
counter.
mayor
there.
write it?
Huh?
Did you write it?
What?
The scooter?
Which one? Oh, no, on
Bird.
that I was doing, I don't know what I was doing that
You were
day,
busy
but
that day.
I liked, I told you Nate Chosseron, forgot what they were doing. He was involved with the hydrogen bike.
Mhm.
And the size of that to me was very good, but I don't think there's going to be a standard size. It's just like you say, you pick certain things that work better, and when they work, they work. Anyway, I said 5-0, we've got that. So thank you very much, but it is time for the highlight of the evening, the city manager's comments.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a few comments. Some of you, I'm sure, will talk about it in your comments, but we did have a very successful National Night Out. Last week, we had 22 block parties, and so we saw a lot of success there. The Parks and Community Services, though loving the children, had an extremely successful summer with their summer camps. However, I was told that they are ready for the kids to go back to school. So they love them, but they are ready for a break. So that's good. And I do want to remind everybody that tomorrow is the first day of school. So
Be careful.
be very careful, and the police will be out in force to ensure the traffic laws are being observed. And then finally, the San Ramon Parks and Community Services received 3 awards from the Bay Area Parent Magazine. So we had a sweep. We had a gold, a silver, and a bronze award. Each year, the magazine and digital publication Bay Area Parent asks its readers to vote on annual family favorite poll. The San Ramon Parks and Community Services Department received these 3 awards. Best swimming facility, we received the gold in the East Bay. Best art class, we received a silver. And then best family event, community fair festival, we received a bronze. So big feather in PCSs, as they normally always do a fantastic job. Yet here we go again, showing all our neighbors just what a great job we do. So very proud of them. That's
And
it for
who's
me.
the liaison to Parks and Community Service? You're supposed to take credit for it. No. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have anybody that wishes to speak to or comment for our city manager's comments? Public comment is open. Now is the time for anyone to address the city council on any item not on the agenda. And if you have not spoken during number 4, do we have any speaker cards?
I don't have any speaker cards, but I do have one hand raised on Zoom.
Bring them in for 2 minutes.
Why is the public comment now down to 2 minutes?
That's my choice.
Oh, okay, that's very strange. But obviously, I think you don't want to listen to other people who is trying to voice their concern. I just want you guys to know that Bird has had deaths already elsewhere in the country, and Mr. or Mrs. Weeks or Miss Weeks never covered that. And you just went ahead and approved it. And the last vetting of this proposal was 18 months ago. And back then it was a different transportation manager. Something fishy is going on. I just want to disclose it on public record that if any zipping teenagers come to hit my car, I'm not responsible for you. The city needs to educate you. And if your parents don't educate you, if the city doesn't educate you, I'm following the rules and you don't, I'm not at fault. I'm tired of all these teenagers. They're zipping around. And if, God forbid, any toddlers who are killed by you, there is some sort of, I hope your parents will go after the city as well, because politicians need to be responsible for their actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? See none, public comment is closed. Okay, city council members, who wants to start? No, you started with you too much. Mark.
Sure, I'll go all the way back to the 27th of July. Saw several of you at the county, the State of the County luncheon. That was good to see you. Got a good update from Candace Anderson. On the 28th of July, I attended the Tri-Valley Affordable Housing Committee meeting. Kate Hartley spoke from Bay Area Housing Finance Authority. She talked about some regional funding that may be coming up. It's a possibility of a $10 billion housing obligation bond, of which 80% of that would be returned to source. So if that were to come to fruition, Contra Costa County's piece of that would be close to $1 billion to go towards affordable housing solutions. On the 1st of August, I attend the Senior Advisory Committee meeting, the usual program updates and discussions. They had some discussion on their annual goals and some action steps having to do with touring the senior center and the garden, different hiking loops, volunteering at front desk, and visiting other senior centers, which are goals of the committee. And probably more importantly, they announced the next senior picnic, which is going to be August 11th. It'll be at noon at the Al Costa Senior and Community Center. So it's $5. So you got to make a reservation in advance.
Do you have to pay?
You got to pay, but they need to know that you're coming. So they properly allocate the right amount of food. And of course, as mentioned, National Night Out. That was a great evening. It was fun to get out there. I got to 8 different block parties and got to mingle with the community and just had a great time. And then lastly, I met with the new principal at Cal High, Demetrius Ball. And we talked about some of the safety enhancements that the city has been doing with Iron Horse Trail and in the area, and shared some of the resident concerns that I get from the different neighborhoods regarding traffic and driver behavior and that sort of thing in the neighborhoods. So
what school did he go to?
He went to West Point.
He
He
did.
and his wife went to West Point, and
Yes.
he's coming from Iron Horse Middle School where he
Yes.
was the principal.
Yeah.
So, and he let me know, I didn't know
Huge.
this, but there's a new school resource officer also that's been identified that's going to be helping out at Cal High.
Who's the new resource officer?
It- Yeah. Yep, that's it. Yep.
Okay, Sridhar,
That was it.
we'll just go right down the road.
Okay, cool. So attended State of County event by Supervisor Anderson. I'm glad to know that how COVID-19 pandemic is being handled and how they are continuously keeping the vaccination progression and how they're ready to prepare themselves for monkeypox. They are and also about the mental health issues, challenges that county is facing. The way they are dealing and preparing ready is really impressive. So we are very happy. We should be thankful to our county for keeping all these important critical things on top of key items that they are working. And the next one is concert. Fantastic concert, had great time with community, a lot of music, dance. And then National Night Out. Once again, I didn't attend like 8, but I could attend 3. But one thing is for sure, like we had one location, we had a lot of music, dance, food. So it was really fun. So that's pretty much from my side.
Yeah, it's slowing up this time of year. Scott, thanks.
Yeah, I did some National Night Out myself, but I unfortunately I missed the Library Foundation meeting because we were interviewing students that night. So I missed that one, but National
Pretty
Night
darn
Out,
good.
it continues to be just such a great fun event. And it's a great opportunity for the council members to get out and talk with people about whatever their concerns are and tell them about things that we're doing. And I love the fact that the PD and the fire district are big participants in that. I know the kids just love seeing the motorcycles and the fire trucks. Yes, but thanks for what you guys do on National Night Out and coordinating the whole thing, Chief. Thanks.
That's great.
Sabina.
Well, I'll go back to the East Bay Division meetings. I missed all of the division meeting. I missed all of you there in Piedmont. It was a beautiful location. And I got appointed as the second vice president of the board. So they somehow convinced me to do that. We had the general plan mixed use ad hoc committee that myself and the mayor sit on. And there was conversation around the Norris Canyon specific plan and making sure it aligns with our general plan and how do we do that. It will come to the council and will go to the commission as well. National Night Out, everybody's talked about concerts. Our last concert ended and the Arts Foundation raised more than $5,000 as part of all those 5 concerts to support the arts. Well, we didn't do in some of those concerts. So interesting thing that at the Bollywood concert, the foundation doesn't do as well. So my recommendation is maybe do a chai stall or something, right? That might help get our numbers up. But really thankful for everybody on the Arts Foundation, and especially just a shout out to Gary Alpert and for showing up, and Cindy for showing up for every concert. I was there maybe for 3 of them. Couldn't make all of them, but really they showed up and they've been kind of keeping this going, and training all of us on how to run, the booth and do the right thing and keeping count of all the drinks and everything. And we all did the student commissioner interviews last night. Like and one of the things, the big things was about mental health. And all these students talked about how much kids were struggling with mental health. The good thing is they're able to talk about it, but it is very, very concerning. And I think that's something that we should be paying a lot of attention to because each one of them mentioned mental health illness there. Other than that, what else was happening? National Night Out, we already talked about. Finance committee meeting. The finance committee meeting, myself and Chair Veros attended that as well. So yeah.
Oh,
that's,
Extra meal, huh?
yeah, that's about the update from the last couple of weeks.
Good. Do we have any speaker cards that want to speak?
I don't have any speaker cards for
Okay.
this item.
Just a couple point, no sense repeating, National League Night Out. Talked to a lot of people. I didn't eat anything. Uh-oh, caught in a lie. If you have any comments on the League of California City amendments before we go down to Long Beach, please email me. I think I can do that, or email the city manager and I'll go in and talk to him. They're trying to extend the executive board. You know, I'm sure there's a good reason to do it, but I got to tell you, sometimes when you make a suggestion and then 10 years later, they want to do it. I can remember Ed Belico asked me to go down there and speak and vote on an amendment. And they wanted to go from 8 of the 10 largest cities to 10 of the 10 largest cities. And I said, what are you trying to accomplish? They go, well, Orange County has Anaheim and Santa Ana. I said, well, if you do it this way, one of them's going to be gone at the first review in 2 years. And they go, I go, Bakersfield's going to pass one, if not one, both of them. And then what are you going to do? Why don't you do it for diversity? Go Stockton, Riverside, and Bakersfield, because they're all over 300,000. You won't have to change for 10 years. Well, now we're back to this and they're changing and trying to do it a different way. So if you look at it and there's any feelings on it, please let me know, because I think I'm going to be the one staying over to vote on it. And I think we're down there before the next meeting, which is the 13th. So go ahead.
We were not going to have the next meeting. Just a reminder for people.
No, the next meeting's the 13th. Oh, I will. Yeah, that'll do last. The other thing is, the question was asked about the 2 minutes. Sit on a few boards, and 2 minutes, if you stay focused, is more than enough to get out your points. Usually when we have to do them, they'll sometimes do 1 minute. When we had the appeals on RENA and the methodology, we all had 1 minute, and you stay focused. That's all it is. And I think it's easier than, and I'm looking at the people like you saw Chadi, didn't even need a timer. He's in and out in 2 minutes. So I was going to try it. I mean, we can do it. And if everybody thinks, we should go back to 3, I'll listen, do what we're told. The other thing in the questioning about Bird or Chris Weeks, I mean, I've known Chris Weeks and working on this kind of stuff for at least a dozen years. And he, if you're listening, was far ahead of what we were doing, even at the Air District, on not only bikes and micro mobility, but on the autonomous vehicle. I talked the Marins into sending him back to Houston for the APTA conference. It's when I found out that we're behind, and they went over to Europe and got what they got. Chris is the one that showed me or invited me to get on the blue bus, which I think is something we still should take a look at. 24-foot electric bus. At the time, 3CTA was looking at it also, but the state government would not allow these kinds of vehicles that didn't have at least 2 seats for the paratransit for what we're doing. And we're also looking into that more from what the Blue Ribbon Task Force looked into. But the thinking that, oh, this is 18 months old, we haven't done anything. We got a history of 2 decades into this stuff. This is not something new. We're just getting the best we can, doing the pilot program and hoping to improve on it. So if there's no further comments, no one wishes to speak, we are adjourned.
Mayor, we do have one hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, take 30 seconds. No, go ahead. Take 2 minutes.
I'm sorry, Mayor Hudson, I'm not Chadi. So I really would like my 3 minutes back. So, Mr. Weeks, now I know that it's a he. I apologize. It was a sincere, wish to want to address you properly, because I'm only on audio. Nothing offensive personally towards you. Now I know who you are. I'm sorry. How come they didn't properly introduce you to us at a city council meeting? I just feel like this is really strange. Anyways, if I don't mind, we're moving into a more technology centered kind of society, but the way you guys are rushing through this without going through open space, without going through parks, without going through teen council, without coming up with proper rules and laws and notifying everyone who has the priorities and what do you do if there is an accident, what is the a speed limit? How do you observe, and how do you make turns and stuff like that? You guys have eliminated all the details, and you just want us to go to where you want us to be. May I ask all of you to disclose, do you hold any bird stocks? This is really offensive, very offensive. I hope you guys will please do, now you have approved it, I will hold you legally responsible because you have failed to do what you're supposed to do. A fiduciary duty tells us that you need to cover your arrears, and you did not. You did not come up with all the rules, the priorities, and you failed to go through 3 very important committees, because most likely these will be on the trails and they belong to the jurisdiction of open space and parks, and you didn't even go there. And this is targeting the teens. You didn't even go there either. So please do your job. Thank you.
Okay, we are adjourned to the next meeting, which will be September 13th. And if that sounds a little odd, we have already publicly announced we will not be doing the second meeting in August. So we'll see you